Okay, recording.
To vote, you need a quorum. But the meeting could be called to order.
All right. So then we'll call the meeting to order.
You just call to order.
So the subject of today's meeting is the City of Yes Economic Opportunity Proposal. City planning came to our meeting, I guess it was last month, November 13th, 2023, and had some a real thoughtful presentation about some sweeping reforms to zoning land use regulations, essentially a new zoning resolution for, I think, the first time since 1961. I spent a few weeks reviewing. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Bobby Link. I'm the vice chair of the Land Use Committee. Carl Stryker will be here in a few minutes, but we're going to get started. The one thing I wanted to say, I'm also taking the minutes for the meeting too, so just make sure, I think last month, someone forgot to sign the sign-in sheet, and so my minutes were off, so just make sure you sign a sign-in sheet before you go, if someone could circulate that, I'd appreciate it.
I got it.
So anyway, back to City of Yes Economic Opportunity. So city planning appeared in front of this body last month on November 13th. They made a thoughtful presentation, and it's really sweeping reforms that are being proposed to the zoning resolution. I reviewed the 630-page documents online and a lot of the supporting documents. It's a real wealth of information. It's very interesting, and I really think it's thoughtful and is a good step in the right direction to a really successful reform. However, in my view, and I've talked to some committee members about it informally, I think it's a bit of a step too far. And I want to go through some of the more controversial or interesting provisions that I think I'd like to hear some feedback from the group. And hopefully tonight, we can discuss these ideas and perhaps come to some consensus. So let's talk about, sorry. Like I said, City of Yes Economic Development is intended to address vacant storefronts that we've seen throughout the city. I would say that according to the planning, city planning's own documents online, CB12 is at about 8% vacancy, while the citywide average is about 12%. I'm sure certain areas, maybe of Manhattan, are in excess of that. I think the idea here is to give more opportunities to small business and all kinds of businesses to come into neighborhoods and get started without costly, extensive proceedings in front of the Board of Standards and Appeals to change the use designation of a particular location. I think that goal can be achieved, and what I detailed in like a 5-page report on the issue. If anyone doesn't have a copy, let me know. I think some of these changes are unnecessarily broad or don't really pertain to the objectives, the central objectives at least, of the City of Yes Economic Opportunity. And the first one that I guess kind of jumps off the page is dancing in bars or restaurants with less than 200 people. City planning repeatedly points out that currently any bar in the district today can have musical entertainment up to a 200-person capacity, but the zoning resolution states that those people can't dance. Now, as a practical matter, I'm sure you can go to any of those 200-seat establishments and there might be some dancing. So for example, if you have at an Irish pub, somebody playing country and Western music or whatever, or someone brings in a DJ playing some music and someone gets up and dances, the Department of Buildings doesn't, kind of rappel down from the rafters and start arresting people. I mean, that is not the practical reality of the situation. What happens is it's another tool in the toolbox for complaints to be made and these bad actors to get reported. So I didn't feel as though it was necessary to go ahead and also say, make this compelling point for certain reasons that, okay, you're going to restrict my freedom of movement, which I understand that argument, but at the same time, I think it's a proposal that can be dealt with on its own. It doesn't necessarily have any business when we're talking about vacant storefronts and we're talking about economic opportunity. To me, it's unnecessarily controversial and didn't belong in the proposal. The next one I wanted to mention was clean manufacturing permitted in commercial districts. Planning argues in their proposal that it would let clean manufacturing like coffee roasters, breweries, jewelry makers, apparel makers to locate in a commercial district at a small scale up to 5,000 square feet. I thought that those promotional materials were a bit unfairly focused on pleasurable aromas like coffee roasters, for example. And I think kombucha was something else that was mentioned at the last meeting. If you look at the promotional or the text, it's a lot more expansive than 3D printing and coffee roasting. We're talking about food manufacturing, not including animal slaughtering or seafood products, beverage and tobacco, textiles, footwear and leather products, not including hide tanning or finishing, wood products, paper products, pharmaceutical and medicine, soap and cleaning compounds, clay and glass products, machinery, computer equipment, lighting equipment, furniture, medical equipment. So my thought was perhaps this list could be whittled down a bit, and that it's a bit unnecessarily broad. And I think some of these uses, particularly when I think about food manufacturing, perhaps wood products, could result in noise or unnecessary odors. And, and in fact, there are other areas, one second, there are other areas of the proposal that brought the nuisance language and codified the nuisance language into the regulations. And I didn't see that. Maybe I missed it. Maybe planning has comments on that. But I didn't see the same nuisance language codified there. So, for example, if I'm just living in a mixed-use building, I don't want my neighbor manufacturing sriracha, something with a pungent oil, pungent odor, or I heard of boiling cabbage in the report. Luke, go ahead.
I just had a question. I used to work for Community Board 5 in Midtown. And one development came to our doorstep, or actually it was a liquor license for a Shake Shack. And they wanted to use their liquor license to expand to a Pops, a privately owned public space. And the community board was able to extract concessions around, making sure that they share the plaza with people from the public. But they also were able to force or get Shake Shack to install this thing that is like some kind of vaporizer where it takes the smell. People were concerned in the neighborhood of the smell of cooking anything, of like oil and stuff like that. And they were able to install that, and that was actually a really great benefit. I'm wondering if there's like anything in our, if noxious smells are a concern, would we be able to stipulate that, hey, we don't mind that people are necessarily doing a little bit of manufacturing around food, but Community Board 12 prefers if I think it's called like a particle is, that there are devices installed in these manufacturing areas that ensure that noxious smells aren't being released.
Okay.
Would that be a friendly amendment to your?
Well, I want to hear feedback from everybody, honestly. Let me just get through these categories, but I understand exactly what you're saying, and I appreciate the comment. Scientific research in commercial districts. I don't know that I necessarily have any objection to that. It says this inclusion of this category said any danger or of fire or explosion nor offensive noise, vibration, smoke, or other objectionable effects would be permitted. And then city planning would not be permitted. City planning made the point repeatedly, and they made the point in last month's meeting that research labs are, among the more highly regulated. But I am interested. I don't know that much about research labs, and I'm interested in the thoughts of the committee. So I did want to bring that up. Amusements, gaming arcades, and banquet halls under the proposed use group 8. Establishments providing recreational activities such as pool halls, bowling alleys, table tennis, trampoline parks, etc., go-karts would be permitted in C1, C2, C4, and C8 districts. The proposal would also permit assembly spaces such as banquet or reception halls in the same district without the approval of a special permit. That inclusion of the reception and banquet halls was concerning to me, for various reasons. It did note, I did want to point out that use group 8 would include a square footage requirement of 10,000 square feet, which I think is important. So we're not talking about a Dave and Buster's. You're talking about like the Chinatown game arcade. So something of a smaller scale. 10,000 square feet is pretty significant, though. And I know we do get a lot of banquet and reception hall requests, so that could be a significant usage. Next was traditional retail spaces could be used as distribution facilities or warehouses. The proposed text creates use group 9, storage, which would enable micro distribution facilities to locate up to 2,500 square foot commercial overlays in the commercial districts. 2,500 square feet is pretty limited, and it does say storage of junk or salvage is not permitted, and neither is a wholesale meat market. But I think it still would permit broadly storing and warehousing goods, and I'm not sure that we necessarily want to give away our storefronts to people who are just using storefront, the retail spaces as storage facilities. I don't think that creates a vibrant shopping district. I don't think that creates a vibrant anything. I think it's an opportunity for business to make some money, and I think in some situations it could be useful, but it doesn't leap off the page as something I would be inclined to support. Commercial use of residential property. I wanted to thank planning for helping me understand this. They gave me some information, Rena in particular. The proposed zoning resolution would expand the ability to operate businesses and residents. The proposed text provides that, I'm taking this directly out of the text, the home business must be incidental or secondary to the residential use. To me, that means that it can't be the primary purpose of the unit. It has to, and then later in number 3 says it has to be occupying no more than 25%, 40, I think it's 49%. I think it was 25%, and that was stricken out. And now it's saying that you can go from 25% to 49% as long as 51% of your usage of the residential property is for sleeping and eating and entertainment, and the other 49% is for commercial uses. And number 2 also says that you can have, I think, an additional 2 people employed. So a couple people coming in and out of the premises, which I assume means condo units in addition to single family or multifamily dwellings. And perhaps delivery people to help move the business that's 49% of the unit now. Under the previous guidance, the home occupations were limited to fine art studios, professional offices, like someone working out of their home as a lawyer or I guess teacher, like a tutor, like a home tutor or something like that. But the new guidance is a lot more expansive. Anything that's incidental or secondary to the residential use, and it specifically permits barber shops, beauty parlors, veterinary medicine, and kennels. That all that was listed as stricken now from the proposed zoning resolution, where before it was specifically prohibited, but now the section saying that it was prohibited has been removed. So apparently you would be able to have a kennel or a beauty parlor operating in your home. There is language that it should not produce offensive noise, vibration, smoke, dust, or other particulate odorous matter, heat, humidity, glare, or other objectionable effects. But I wanted to point out, and I have some experience with this, in a landlord-tenant proceeding where you're bringing a nuisance case in a residence, you have the opportunity to cure the nuisance up until the time, you can do it during the case, as the case is pending, as long as you fix the problem, the judge dismisses the case. You can go to trial a year and a half later, spend tens of thousands of dollars on an attorney, right? And then the court has to issue you, I think it's a 10-day notice to cure the defect after you've lost the trial and it's been determined that you've been causing a nuisance. So you can just be in this Sisyphusian situation where you're just trying to resolve a nuisance of a neighbor who's has a commercial business. You bring a lawsuit, you spend thousands of dollars, you get to the end of the road, you win, and then all the tenant has to show is that they cured the nuisance. Okay, Judge, I closed the business. Here you go. It's not going to be a problem anymore. Or we switched the business. We're no longer going to manufacture sriracha. We're going to make coquito, and that's a much more pleasurable aroma. So that won't bother anybody. So everything goes away, right? And then you just do it over again, right? You can do the same thing over, and then you got to bring a lawsuit again. And then that's going to go on for a year and a half, and you're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars. So, yes.
So one thing that, even though this is zoning, it's not necessarily saying, hey, if this commercial use of residential property is going to go into effect, it's going to automatically allow these types of uses. These still have to go through your Department of Building certificate of occupancy. So you can't just place a kennel anywhere you want. You have to have a certificate of occupancy, you have to have it reviewed. I think one thing that was mentioned about this commercial use of residential property is that it's limited, and correct me if I'm wrong, to the first 2 floors, or there has to be, I think that's for doctor's offices, but there's a separate entrance requirement as part of this rezoning where commercial use would be separated from residential use. So let's say like vertically, and is this right? You remember this?
It is right. They discussed this when they went to the court. The problem is the Bronx, the way we are set up, we don't have, our buildings are old, we don't have separate entrances. So they said that protocol of being able to have your business on the 3rd, 4th floor or whatever have you may not apply to a lot of areas in the Bronx. So technically that is a thing, but that may not apply to us because the way our buildings are situated, we don't have a separate entrance for a person to have a business and not allow tenants and customers because people are, they're thinking about the traffic that's coming into their building. So that may or may not be something that we have to have on our table.
Could we get clarity from Department of City Planning, who's on the call?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Brenna Hemmings from BxCB is here.
Do we want to just run through them real quick and let Brenna respond to everything, or?
think
No,
we should
it's up to you guys.
Yeah, let me just run through the report, Brenna. I appreciate you listening and
Oh, yeah, no
then
problem.
we'll resolve everything.
Oh,
Motor
we'll see
vehicle,
about that.
motor vehicle maintenance shops. The resolution text would allow vehicle repair not requiring state licensure through the DMV, which according to the DMV, section 82.3 permitted activities include fueling, changing oil, water batteries or tires, replacing fan belts, air filters, oil filters, installing windshield wiper blades, light bulbs, polishing and washing, repairing, installing, or replacing seat safety belts, upholstery business, or communications equipment. So that would be more readily available, but only after site plan review and approval via the BSA. I like that it has to be approved by the BSA, but for our district, I'm not inclined to encourage any more vehicle maintenance shops. I think we have our share of vehicle maintenance shops in CB12. Corner stores in residential districts. The amendment allows City Planning Commission to approve commercial spaces not exceeding 2,500 square feet on corner lots where the use serves a residential area, does not produce objectionable effects, and will not create traffic congestion. I thought that was something that we should bring up to the committee to discuss further. And then agricultural uses permitted in residential districts. Agricultural uses, including greenhouses, nurseries, or truck gardens, are permitted into the residential districts, provided that no offensive odors or dust are created and that there's no sale of products there is no sale of products not produced on the same zoning lot. So I guess I can grow carrots in my backyard and invite people over to buy them.
Marijuana.
Well, marijuana's certainly got.
If they give off objectionable odors.
No, that's regulated by the state.
No, it's regulated by the state, marijuana, but yeah, to me, I don't know. The reason why I'm not inclined to support more agricultural uses in residential districts is I just don't know that it goes to the heart of what we're talking about here, which is economic development, motivating, revitalizing our business districts, getting thriving businesses into our business corridors. I just didn't think that was something that was necessary, and I'd like to see this a little bit more narrowly tailored to the intent and the very legitimate goals of the overall regulations. So that was my feedback. Perhaps Brina, from planning might have some thoughts.
Sure. So, hi everyone. Was that all that you had to say about the, because I noticed you went through certain proposals, Bobby. So were those the ones that like jumped out at you, or the ones that like you had wanted to discuss with the committee at large?
Yes. Those were the ones that, in reviewing the proposal, they seemed very significant, and I thought that there would be a lot of discussion amongst the group on those in particular. I think you did a good job of covering, some of the other kind of more benign, initiatives that accompany the. So I wanted to kind of focus on, the more controversial stuff.
Sure. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm just going over some of my notes because I was trying to write down certain ones that you had called out. I guess the most recent one is the urban agriculture one that you were speaking about. I did hear some people, well, some of the other committee members talking about the sale of cannabis, and you did rightfully say that that is a state run policy, but more to the point, like if urban agriculture would allow for the like growing of weed, and by which that would, the smell affecting people and just the neighborhood at large. It possibly could, but not necessarily, because as I did mention, a lot of this is, like the things that we're proposing for this citywide text amendment aren't jumping over any other agencies or any other state authorities rulings. So we're not saying like, oh, okay, like, you know, you can do whatever you want here, you can do whatever you want here. Like you don't have to go to DOB, you don't have to go to BSA, you don't have to go to the City Planning Commission. So along that line, I would say that the questions about growing that, so in terms of growing weed, that's kind of where I land in terms of answering that question. Like we're not jumping over what other agencies are doing or, you know, giving carte blanche. The other one you had mentioned, oh, you had emailed me earlier about the home occupations, and was that the one you were talking about? Because I also read your question to think maybe it might have been about like the mixed use in like the same building, so like commercial and residential being in the same building, and just making sure that those uses are kept separate.
No, I think you directed me to the correct section, and the report that I circulated to the committee was merely an excerpt of what you had directed me to. But my concern with respect to the home uses was, you know, sort of just the broadness of what is going to be permitted now, whereas before it was only, you know, tutoring or a home office. Now we're, you know, letting barbershops operate when, in my view, the point of this was revitalizing business districts and increasing or lowering the vacancy rate in the commercial storefronts. I mean, if people are, you know, operating barbershops and whatnot, not in commercial spaces, but in their home, it seems to be counter to that. And with the added bonus here, the added negative that, you know, if you're bringing commercial activity into residential properties, you're going to create an atmosphere where it's likely that there's going to be quality of life complaints. So that could be, you know, smells, noise, people coming in and out. So whatever your response to that would be really appreciated.
Sure. No, thanks for giving me a bit more background on the specifics of your question. So with home occupations, one of the reasons that we're proposing to broaden just the range of businesses that can exist in that can be classified as home occupations is largely because of, you know, as you had rightfully mentioned when you opened up the meeting, is that the 1961 zoning resolution is very outdated and is honestly very confusing for people that work from home, because, you know, you could have a law office or you could be a music teacher, but if you're like a barber or interior decorator, advertising or PR agency, like, you know, you're very limited in terms of how you can work from home or if that's even a possibility. So in terms of just the home spaces, that's kind of like one of the big things. Just, and it also goes along with there's a proposal number 6, which is modernizing some of the use groups that are in the zoning resolution, and just making them more modern and just more accessible for people. Because if people can't understand what they can do with their property or what they can use the property for, then it can, you know, cost people a lot of money, and it can cost them a lot of time and frustration. And just making it clearer and updating it so that it's more accessible to people is, you know, something that we are proposing to do with this updated text.
I have a question for Brenna.
Sure.
So I remember one thing during the presentation about having multiple entrances and a separate entrance for certain commercial uses. Would that apply here? Like if somebody did want to have a barbershop, they wouldn't have to have a separate entrance, right? And the same on the flip side of that, if somebody wanted to have a dog kennel, would you need a separate entrance for that?
I'm not too sure, but I would think with a home, my understanding would be that it goes by what currently happens. So like if you operate like a law office outside of your home, it's usually like the same entrance that you would, you know, leave, that you would operate at, you know, go through as a business and then as a resident. So I would think it's that, but I will definitely check because that is an interesting question.
George has a question.
So Luke mentioned something, Brenna, about the dog kennels previously. And I was just curious, if this zoning resolution goes forward, would we require, for example, I think you mentioned that jobs would have to be filed and the CO, the certificate of occupancy amended. But if you update or this zoning resolution goes through, will that be required? So for example, if you're a private homeowner, as a residential, would you have to put a filing together or a job with the Department of Building stating that you're amending something because you're now running a barber shop, which just takes, I mean, like in your basement or something?
So if I can understand your question correctly, is it based, because with the dog kennel, it's, you know, you have noises, you have potentially more impacts to quality of life versus a barber shop. So you're asking if private homeowner, would there be more restrictions or would there be more oversight by like DOB or other enforcement agencies?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, so how would, if somebody decided tomorrow this zoning resolution goes through and they decide, I would like to do doggy daycare and, you know, run that out of my basement or my apartment. Again, you don't require, you know, no new plumbing or anything like that, and something happens, how would that run afoul, or how would a regular constituent or a neighbor say, you know what, this guy is a problem, or this situation is a problem? The buildings, I would imagine, would show up and say, well, no, this is permissible now. How do we enforce that?
So
Is
I,
it enforceable?
oh, sorry, did I cut you off?
I'm sorry, is it enforceable?
Oh yeah, no. I honestly think it would just be DOB because they would regulate home occupation. So we're not, DCP isn't stepping in and saying, oh, we're, you know, regulating, we're like enforcing this. We're like, okay, this is, instead of it being used to be like 25%, now it's, I'm just using that number as an example, but now it's 49% that can be used for work. So it would still be beholden to DOB and other enforcement agencies. So we're not saying like, oh, you can just like jump the line and do whatever you want. It's like, well, you still have to, you know, make sure that it's all okay with DOB and go to them.
Yeah.
If you want to run it, then
Wait. I don't know that that's what Brianna's saying. I don't think if you're operating a business out of your home and only 49% of the use is going to be for a dog kennel, and 51%, you're not changing the certificate of occupancy. That's not a thing. No, you would not change. Brianna, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe you would correct. If I have a single family home and now under the zoning resolution, the proposed zoning resolution, I'm permitted to operate a dog kennel out of my single family home, I don't need an amendment of the C of O. I mean, unless I'm wrong, you could let me know. I have a question for Brianna. Let her respond to it.
Sure. I'm just looking that up real quick. Oh, and it's Brenna, by the way.
Sorry.
No. It's okay. It looks like Brina, but it can look like Brina.
I would say Brianna, but I'm sure you get that a lot.
So much. Let me just double check.
So I used to work for DOB.
Luke,
Whenever there was,
Yeah, he worked.
I used to work for DOB. If you want to install a doctor's office in your single family home, you have to get, unless you want to operate it illegally, you have to get a certificate of occupancy change. So if you don't have a certificate of occupancy, meaning your building was built before they issued certificate of occupancies, yeah, you might be able to sneak a dog kennel in. But there are very few buildings built, it's like 1931 or something that you have these records of. So all these types of home uses, you're gonna need a certificate of occupancy. Brenda's talking about it still needs to go through. This is just allowing it in the zoning district, allowing, these types of uses to happen within the zoning district.
No, I agree with you. As you know, I worked at buildings as well. What I'm suggesting, a doctor's office is not the best example because you're actually filing jobs, you're gonna need new plumbing, you're gonna need new electricity, you're gonna need certain things that are gonna require you to go to the building department to file a job. If you're a barber or a beauty salon,
You don't need all.
you're just putting a chair in a room somewhere. Yeah, and you're cutting hair, so you don't need to go to buildings to file any job. And actually, Brenda, while you're looking it up, buildings already exist. And that's one of the things that we're considering, I guess, or the mayor's office, or maybe even this resolution is considering is basement apartments. But all the work that would be required for a basement apartment, sprinklers and that sort of stuff, those would require built like DOB filings and stuff like that. Again, a dog kennel is really just storage. You know, you put in cages in your basement, or again, I don't even know if would a kennel be allowed in a private building, an apartment building?
Yeah, that's what.
You know, like that I would just be curious.
Wait, Carl,
Yeah,
Carl has a point. I want to recognize Carl.
Yeah, thank you. Grant, I have a question about, speaking about apartments.
Yes.
Now, what about co-ops? Co-ops have the privilege of having extra restrictions on who can move into the building and so forth. You change the zoning, and some dude wants to come in and open a barber shop in his co-op. Now, the co-op has a right to deny that, so what happens?
Co-ops. Honestly, not too familiar. So co-ops, you're asking if the former owner of a co-op says you can do one thing.
No, not the farmer,
The board.
the board.
Sorry. So the board says you can do one thing, then like let's say the board changes and then you can no longer do the thing. Like who is right in that instance?
I will tell you, a barber, a beautician, anybody like that would never get into my co-op. We have somebody who works home, he's a lawyer, that's it. He has his office, his room is his office. We have no issue with that.
Does he have clients that come to his office?
Yes, and they have.
So what is the difference between his clients coming into the office and a barber or a beautician having clients?
Because he has an office space, and it's permitted under our rules.
Under what types of rules? Bylaws?
Bylaws, yeah.
So that's the thing. These proposals aren't gonna change building co-op's bylaws. It's just gonna say, hypothetically, if the building bylaws, let's say the board of directors wanted to change the bylaws to allow barbershops, they could do that because it's allowed under zoning. It's not gonna force people, you know, it's not gonna go around board of directors in co-ops.
So, two things. Oh, George, quick question. Someone asked in the chat for the presentation again. I have it. Is it okay, like, if I send it along, or can I send it along in the chat?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I'm just making sure. I'm like, I am a guest. I am just trying to make sure that I don't do something I'm not supposed to. Okay. Let me see if I could attach it.
Do we have a chairperson at the moment?
Well, should I switch back to, it was me as vice chair, but I guess I can switch it back to
I am
Carl.
the chair.
Then we have a recognized meeting now.
I'm sorry?
Recognized.
It was open.
No, it was a point of information. We didn't have a quorum. Now we have a quorum. We need a quorum.
You opened it at 7 o'clock, right? Okay, that's very good. Point of order. Very good. I like that.
Okay. So.
Okay. If you can hold on 1 second, I want to open the meeting officially.
Sure.
Okay. This is December 11th. The meeting was opened at 1900 hours. The chair was late, so the vice chair filled in for him, which he was going to do anyhow because he spent hours and hours and hours his own time over and over this project and came up with these pages. And he's a very dedicated person. I really appreciate what he did. So that's why I was gonna let him control the meeting anyhow tonight. But unfortunately, my cab was late, and I got here at 7:10, 7:12, and the meeting was in process. I was not gonna interrupt it, because it was going on very, very well. And Robert had everything under control, as usual, and I appreciate all the effort he put into this. I don't think any one of us that sits at this table right now would have went through all those pages of, I consider some of it useless information, other important information, and then come up with a 5-page document. I mean, I believe that's going over what is needed for the board member. But he did it, and I appreciate it, and he makes the land use committee look well. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. So go ahead, Robin. I turn Cove over back to you.
Okay, so, thank you, Carl. I guess, Brina, go ahead. Brenna, sorry. I'm gonna get it by the end of the day.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't able to send it in the chat. I can't attach PDFs for some reason, but I was able to send it along. Yeah, no, the point I just wanted to make and what I really wanted to emphasize is that we're like DCP through this proposed citywide text amendment zoning for economic opportunity city of yes. This is the second citywide text amendment within those within city of yes. We're not looking to jump the line ahead of any other enforcement agencies. So whatever baselines are there will continue to stay there. We're just mainly trying to simplify the zoning resolution and just make it and update it for modern times because, you know, as I've said a couple times and as I'm sure Bobby has seen in the materials, I think he's seen the date 1961 more times than he's really wanted to. These rules were written in the 1960s based on an idea of the world looking exactly the way as it did then as it would now. So what we're looking to do is just, you know, after engaging with different groups and different individuals, just looking to craft these proposals based on the feedback we've heard and just, you know, what can make things, you know, what can make zoning a bit more sensible and a bit more easier in New York City.
I have a question
Go ahead.
for Bobby. So in the thing, I just want to say thank you so much for putting together these findings. You are a trove of information, and we really appreciate taking so much time to look through all these. But I noticed that not all of the proposals that DCP has in front of us are on this sheet. And I was wondering what your thoughts are on some of the proposals that you didn't include in the summer.
Okay, well, I mean, you can ask me about anyone in particular, but I thought the general idea of modernizing the zoning resolution and consolidating some of the use groups makes a lot of sense. And I think it is in need of some attention. But, you know, honestly, I went through the 600 pages or so, and I put and I didn't necessarily focus on what I thought was bad, or I just focused on the things that I thought we should really talk about, and I thought planning did a good job with their meeting a month ago, you know, setting forth what they thought were the benefits of the proposal, but I kind of took it in a different. I organized it differently, you know, just with respect to the individual uses that were being changed and what those proposals were, where I think it was organized differently by planning. If there's a specific question about one, I'll certainly answer that.
So because I think it might be helpful to find out where we can agree on instead of consuming a lot of time on where we don't, just so that we can kind of move forward. Lifting time limits to reactivating vacant storefronts. How do we, that wasn't on this proposal?
Well, but okay, so for example, there's no section that I glean in the 600 pages that is like, oh, the lifting time limits to reactivating vacant storefronts language, and then there's a section about expediting timeframes. It's not organized in that fashion, at least that I reviewed. I saw it kind of shown as I kind of presented it. That's how I read the text amendment, and that's why I tried to break it down. That's a description, that's not the zoning text.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Should we go by the things that you reviewed or the checklist that was sent in the email that's saying that look at the different proposals? Did you want to look at that, is what you mean? That way you could figure out like what we're all agreeing to?
Yeah.
Because I don't mind going over your bullet points, and I know the checklist you're talking about is that checklist right there. No, not that, is that
yeah,
that
so
one?
that's
another
interesting
one.
too. What he has up right there is actually very important. So
Yeah,
this is showing, this document that's up right now is showing the current use group 1, or the current 4B is being converted in, sorry, I looked at it when it was flipped the other way, because there's a separate attachment that hasn't flipped. But 4B is now gonna be use group 1. 17C, agriculture, greenhouses is now gonna be 1. Cemeteries is now 1. Golf courses is now 1. So they're, see, 17C, 4B, 13A, they're consolidating all of those into 1. So this is actually a really good guide. It gives you like some familiarity with what they're trying to do. I found this document very helpful when I was trying to come up with the guide. I mean, like, listen, I prepared this for the benefit of the committee and for the benefit of myself, so that I would have a better understanding of the proposals. I listened to the proposal last week and the presentation last week.
yeah,
I went on the planning website and I reviewed not only the promotional materials, but also the text and then some of the exhibits that were really helpful. So I'm basing my decision on the totality of it. I don't know, you should probably base your decision on,
No, I
everything
did,
you said.
after they did the court presentation and everything, I already kind of wrote down the things that I was looking at, and I loved everybody's, like, I was here to hear everybody else's feedback. I remember that, there was that email attachment,
Yes.
and it said that if we are for this proposal or not for this proposal, so I kind of used that attachment as far as like what we were perhaps gonna discuss, because I know you wanna focus on what we agree on and
Yeah.
and not agree on, because one of the ones I don't agree with you, but I'm late, but it's not bad.
That's okay.
No, that's,
Yeah, like I thought, like, I didn't know if we were gonna go like this to try to, I know, it's
Like,
very,
again,
it's too,
To me, like, reactivate storefronts and simplify district types. I mean, those are just nice things that everybody supports these things. Like, we all
there's no
support,
detail to it.
but it's no
Yeah.
detail to it. It's like, how do you get from here to
To there.
react to
Yeah.
there, right? So that was kind of, I thought, the deficiency of the presentation. It wasn't showing how we get from here to there. It was just showing all the wonderful things that you want to be the conclusion of everything. So what I tried to do is look at some of the more,
Yeah,
compelling
the ones that shows out
proposals.
for us, yeah.
right, to kind of flesh out. But yeah, I didn't find that checklist to be reflective of what was actually being accomplished.
Okay.
So let me just ask you a question. I wish Ursula was here so that I could ask her. The stuff that we deal with here at the community board are actually the complaints. People call us and they say, oh, I have a contractor who's parking his van with ladders and everything. Oh, Ursula is going over the complaints we get. I have a contractor, Baychester and Pittman, maybe, builds an illegal fence, but it's a roll down fence, like one you would see outside on like a commercial district, but in a residential neighborhood. That's how he did his garage, but on the side of his building. So his side yard, he puts his construction equipment, his ladders, all that stuff in the side yard. We get a former district manager calls us frequently to make that complaint. We've made that complaint. Now, the reason I bring that up is similar to our last full board meeting. CAU was here, the representative from the mayor's office was here and said, oh, we're trying to legalize the angle parking on White Plains Road. And it occurred to me that maybe, just maybe, the building department and the city is terrible at going after people who owe them money. And they're just basically now trying to legalize all of the illegal stuff that's happening because they don't want to have to deal with it going forward. The building department is already understaffed. And again, the types of complaints that we receive from people, I had one constituent call, said a guy's running a cleaning business out of his apartment. So every morning, people show up at his door, his workers show up at his door, knock on the door, get their stuff, they're making noise, collecting all the stuff, then occupying the elevator. I will tell you now, I live in Co-op City. We get tons of Amazon, UPS, FedEx, and they hold the elevator. Amazon slides those things, we get 2 elevators, and they slide it. It becomes, like if you live in a big building and there's only 2 elevators and you're running a business, a commercial business that's active, you know, you're not gonna wanna stop on the 28th floor all the time. Like once or twice, it's a coincidence, you know, all the time. And that's, you know, I worked at the building department at the time, it was a violation, but I'm just saying, like, it sounds to me like the city planning is again trying to legalize stuff. It's not a simplification. And I think to Bobby's point, Robert made an excellent point earlier, where you're trying to, the first thing on that list says, we're reactivating storefronts, but there is vague information on how they actually plan on achieving that. And then they suggest that, oh, we could do residential, commercial in a residential area, which kind of seems ironic because you're trying to activate storefronts. You should be encouraging those businesses, stylists, lawyers, whomever, to move into storefronts, which then speaks to what I think Luke brought up at a previous meeting, where you might have clean manufacturing in some of these storefronts. A ceramic class, I think, is what you had raised before. So there are good things and there are bad things, and those are the things that you have to. But let me just, my final point, Luke, will be, unfortunately, this is an all or nothing. I mean, we can make a recommendation that'll say this is what we don't agree with, but they're going forward with the whole package. And I'm sorry, the final thing I'll say is, and I just sent this to everybody, Ursula sent it on Wednesday, we got the gaming text amendment. I hope you received that email. That dovetails into this a little bit, especially regarding the gaming stuff. So, you know, that's something that we're now on the clock for as well. So, you know, we have to address that. And how does that, you know, go into this?
Yeah, Luke is right.
Did they have games before? Like gambling spots on Boston Road and stuff like that?
Boston Road, they had opened up, but they closed.
Okay.
So,
When did they have it before?
oh, John, what are you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
So the gaming here is kind of more like video games, like those arcades that you see in Chinatown. I've been to them, they're kind of fun. That's not really my thing though, but I don't think it's necessarily too exceptional. But I was wondering if we're joined here by Montchelou Preservation Corporation, Malcolm. I was wondering if you had, or your organization, you know, you locally engage businesses in the district. I wonder if Montchelou Preservation Corporation has any thoughts on the proposal.
Hey, how you guys doing? Nice to meet you all. I'll just say is that I do understand and I do agree. Yes, Malcolm Gray.
Okay.
Yes. I will say that I do understand and I do agree with the vagueness of the proposals, right? But a lot of that vagueness comes from the fact that every economic corridor is different, right? I also manage the Jerome Gun Hill bid, right? I'm the neighborhood development manager. If I go from East Gun Hill to Jerome, in that strip, the culture and the businesses of that corridor is entirely different. If I come down on East Gun Hill Road and I hit White Plains Road, the culture and the vibrancy of that economic corridor is different. If I go down Boston Road, it is also different. So when you look at the way I see it, right, I'm saying the way I see it. When I look at the proposals, it's allowing more for a it's not a one size fit all, because not every proposal that's in the city of Yes will fit in this district, right? If I go through the zoning map of White Plains Road, Boston Road, of community of District 12, you guys have a lot of C1 to C4 zoning. Your manufacturing is more closer to Wakefield and also at the edge of your district to Community Board 10 and partially Community Board 11. So you have different things going on there. Um, what I will stress is that White Plains Road, for example, is changing, right? It is not the same as it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, right? What we're seeing a lot, especially in the Bronx, for example, a lot of repeat businesses. We're seeing a lot of delis, right? It's a deli in every corner, right? There's a lot of nail shops, a lot of barber shops. And that also affects the economic vibrancy and vitality of the community. What I see the city as is doing is opening the doors for new business to open, right? So I know something like the bowling alley or a arcade possibly opening up, right, came up in this conversation, right? It doesn't have to look like what it looks like in Chinatown, right? If you go to Grand Summit, New York, not Grand Summit, I'm sorry, Grand Summit, New Jersey, where they have, a arcade in a more, I guess, lower density community, it exists, right? The same way that it would exist in Chinatown, for example. Um, I know, but I will say that what I would recommend is that you break down the proposals one by one and see which proposals more relate to you, as a district, and more relate to your own specific corridors, and figure out how it could either improve or make things worse. I wouldn't suggest looking at the extremes, like for example, you know, a somebody opening up a barbershop in a co-op. I did real estate for a while, and I know for sure co-op boards would not allow that. It's a very extreme process just even rent your co-op. Um, and I also stress the fact that their landlords, if you look at the long form landlord, they do have their own bylaws or regulations within their leases that prevent businesses from happening in their properties. So City of Yes isn't taking away any or changing any laws per se. It's just opening up the zoning for allow for new business to happen. As with MPC, what we do a lot is that we do a lot of surveying of our corridors. And we get a lot of input from the the residents that live in the corridors to tell us what businesses would you want to see in your community, right? And lots of times we get businesses that are not there presently. Like Black people do want more recreation activities. They do want things like karate shops opening up, karate dojo, sorry, opening up in their communities. They want more shoe stores. A lot of people want more, I guess, ceramics stuff. So that need does exist. And if we are looking at the economic future of what this district looks like, it we it will, I think it will be beneficial to look at the needs of what people want and what they want to shop at. Because if the stores aren't opening here, they're going to open somewhere else. And those people that live here may move out or they may not shop in these corridors. Um, so, I mean, that's what I would say about it. I will also, I really stress the need to also take precaution to some of these things, like cabarets, for example, like the cabaret laws or dancing. I do agree that, if you're going to say yes or no to this thing, that you should send in your recommendations that you want stricter regulations upon, new entities opening up that may allow for dancing or partying or type event type stuff. I would also recommend that you probably just do a walkthrough of the corridors and figure out and talk to people and see what they will like. Because a lot of the things that I see proposed in the city of Yes is not far away from what people are looking for in the Pacific corridors.
Any other comments on the committee? Luke, go ahead.
I just would like to say that the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, Manhattan Chamber of Commerce, Staten Island Chamber of Commerce, Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, and Queens Chamber of Commerce all have issued strong letters of support for this proposal as a way to bolster small businesses in the community. Regional Plan Association has also strongly endorsed this plan. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, anybody else want to be recognized?
Yeah, I just want to stop.
Someone on the call?
Robert Hall, board.
Robert Hall, go ahead.
Yeah, I just would like to say, maybe a survey would be essential, but we already know this. I learned a lot. At one point in time on White Plains Road, we had an arts and crafts store, and people were coming from everywhere to take part. And that's something that's quite essential, all right? And I believe once we put this out there, a lot of people would want it. At the same time, this Rite Aid on Gun Hill Road in Bronxwood, it's not working, okay? Not that I'm saying we got the answer, because the Rite Aid on 222nd Street and White Plains Road doesn't work no more. But these are things that maybe could be replicated or brought out and would attract an audience that we don't have as of now. So maybe a survey would be essential, but I don't know if we have the time for that. I'm just kind of piggybacking.
Robert, you done? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's it. I yield. Thank you.
Go ahead, Carl. Go ahead.
Actually, Robert, we have to vote on this on Thursday before the party, because all has to be done by January 4th and into city planning. The city planning has told us that we can make recommendations later, but that doesn't mean they have to accept them. And the key is, this is what happens every time you deal with something from the city. 60 days comes up and it's, oh, here, we got this, we need a response for you in 60 days. Something this large, and the predecessor to this, the carbon neutrality, needed a lot more information to us so we could vote logically on what the needs are for the community. But they don't give you that amount of time. You can't review a 664-page document in 60 days and come up with recommendations. It's impossible. Only a miracle worker could do that, and he's sitting to my left.
I got it.
Right.
Okay. I agree.
For a while to be recognized.
I didn't.
Hey, guys.
I apologize. I apologize. I didn't see your hand. Go ahead.
Hey, guys.
Go ahead. You've been recognized.
So this whole proposal has to be voted on as is. There are no amendments that we can make to it. There's nothing they're gonna take out of it. It has to be voted as is, this whole proposal, right?
Correct.
No, that's what I was gonna say, Denise. You can make recommendations, but again, you're voting on the totality of it.
Yeah, you can,
So
we can make recommendations. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to take them. So we're voting on this proposal as is.
As is,
Right.
correct.
You could
So
say,
I
we're gonna
would-
vote in favor of it, but I don't like.
Yeah, can I make a motion that we vote on this? Because it's as is. It's now, we can't take anything out, and then we have recommendations written out.
But
Wait, she made a
Hey, guys.
Either nay or a, that's it.
well, I just wanted to make sure that if anyone else had any comments on the
Yeah,
proposal.
I do. Hi, guys.
There's a hand raised.
I do understand that we have to vote, but I'm concerned, even like how many board members do we have? I can't see, I'm on my phone.
We
How
have
many?
More board members.
You have a quorum, and from our board members, are there any, how many are on virtually?
Board members,
I can't hear you.
5, 6, 6 virtual.
yeah, but
No,
those
they're talking about
are board
land
members, they're not land use committee, so you only have 5.
Yeah, board member. So in essence, we're missing about 30 people from our board that are not even aware of where we're going to be voting on. And I do understand that we have to vote.
And I do definitely think we have to submit recommendations, but is there any way to stop this, or I know that they're not giving extensions, but I'm just concerned that the same thing that happened with the bike lanes is what's going to happen again, right? That we made a vote and now we're going to take a vote. We're not going to be happy with it. In the end, we're missing like 30 board members that should be informed. And so that's my concern.
Beatrice, I understand your concern, but what do? We had the meeting last month, they didn't come. We're here again, they didn't come. That's
I
their
know.
loss. That's their loss.
And
What
they-
about
they-
everybody else that's here? And it's freezing here. It's cold and we're here and we can't delay it anymore. We can't keep holding up stuff because these board members don't want to do what they're supposed to do. And these people who've been coming to the meetings, most of them are the same people that came last month. We told them I sent out a notice, you personally sent out a
I
notice.
said it in a meeting too.
And we said that to meeting. They want to be board members. This is what they're supposed to do. They don't want to show up. Everybody can't suffer for that.
I'm to the one lady that said
Yeah, I
she's-
just get on
she's
this
gonna
time,
be-
I thought we were just voting to recommend it to the board and we vote on it this week.
That's
Yes.
what I was gonna suggest. I mean, as the land use committee, we should have some credibility to go to the full body on Thursday and say, we had a robust discussion about this.
Thank you, Ariel,
Hopefully we
for
won't
raising
be
that.
successful. Let me finish my comment. So I think we should have some credibility to come into the meeting on Thursday to say truthfully that we had a robust conversation. Everyone was given an opportunity to talk and present information. We had city planning there. We had 2 meetings where we've discussed this. At this point, we have a deadline, and I think it is time to vote. Go ahead, Luke.
So my point is that this isn't just something we can just say yes or no to, because it has to get adopted and it's gonna get changed by city council. So if we say, hey, city council member, we don't like this, can you please push for this? That's what they're looking for. If we just give them a yes, no proposal, that doesn't inform our city council members of anything that we're interested in. And I think it's incumbent on us to say if we do like something or if we don't, to be able to say, hey, this is good, this isn't. And so I really fight back against this because even though it was crafted by Department of City Planning, it's not baked into law yet.
Go ahead.
But I'm sorry, one last thing, but this is where our recommendations need to be strong. Right? This is where that's the only thing that's really going to matter. We do have to vote on it. Our recommendations need to be strong and fast.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm agreeing with both. I was saying, like, because it's yes, it's yay and nay, but also what is the recommendation if it's nay? Because when I look at the whole dance and bar thing, one thing they said was common sense. Common sense is very vague. And I think a lot of times what we have an issue is that they have a proposal that they're gonna do, it's very vague, and then when it comes out, it's not kind of what people thought it was gonna be. So for me, I was gonna say like for like the dancing and the whole noise complaint, because we said that there's a lot of complaints about that. What does common sense mean? That is too vague. So for me, I will say nay with the recommendation to have an understanding of what common sense means to businesses. We keep on talking about how we want to be modern and we want things to happen. And in order to do that, we already know, for instance, it's a trickling effect, right, throughout the 5 boroughs. We already know the total congestion is gonna happen next year. When that happens, a lot of people are gonna be staying mostly in the Bronx, Harlem, in places where they can, utilize that time. We don't know if businesses are gonna pop up during that time and how we're gonna be able to effectively support them when they have that. Because when you hear common sense, what does that mean? In New York City, that usually means all summer and, weekends. And for new residents that we have coming in, they may not understand that. And we wanna make sure that even though we're prioritizing commercial businesses, that we're also keeping the culture of what New York City is and what our citizens and residents are kind of used to. So for me, I get what you're saying. I think we should definitely bring up our recommendations to anything. I think there needs to be a recommendation for what common sense means. That's super vague. I never really saw that in law, but I think they're playing around with that word. I don't like that. So I think the common sense is something that, and that's one of your first bullet points here.
There's two questions up on the board, but we have one right here.
I agree with some of what you say. I say yay, and the fact, all the concerns that we raised here, and being that you're taking the minutes, be put as recommendations. Every single concern, but a yay, because it's a good proposal. There are a few kinks to it, and we can bring that up along with the proposal. Yay with the concerns that we have that have to be addressed.
Okay, on the board, was there someone with their hand raised?
Malcolm Gray.
Judith had a hand up.
There were two hands up.
It was Brenna was the other one. Brenna and then Malcolm Gray.
All right, if they're waiting on the board, I just.
Brenna's first. I don't know why, but her hand is up.
Malcolm Gray's
I
hand.
don't see it. Oh, I see it.
Malcolm Gray's hand is up.
No,
Yeah,
I
I
want
see
to
his
speak.
hand. It just blends in.
Right there.
I thought there were two.
There's two hands.
Okay. Did either Brina or Malcolm want to speak? Brenna, sorry, and Malcolm want to speak?
Yeah, no, I don't like interrupting when you guys are all talking because it is your meeting and I am part of the public. But for the way you can vote, you can say, you can go each proposal by proposal because there are two things being proposed. There's the things that I presented on, and then there's also the other things that I presented on, which are the different manufacturing districts. So you can put whatever conditions you want on the specific proposals. Like, if like the common sense one is too vague and that's something you want to make note of in what you write about and how you vote, then please do so. Like, don't feel limited by what is written there because, as many people have said, this is a proposal. These are proposals, like they have not yet been adopted. And we are going out to community boards in order to see what feedback we can get from you and just to see what proposals, ring well to you or don't ring well to you. So that was all I wanted to say.
After Malcolm speak, I have a question.
Malcolm, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if from what I know, I believe BCP is collecting the recommendations and the objections, and I would suggest maybe if they're collecting information, you could get access to that information. And I can even go back to MPC and see if I could even share some of the data that I have with MPC from our consumer surveys and our merchant surveys to share with you guys. If you guys, want to use that for a more, I guess, informed decision down the lines at some point.
Thank you, Malcolm. I am voting against, and the reason why I am an incrementalist, I think that there is a significant amount of sweeping policy reforms in this proposal that could transform your downtown districts. We do not need more warehouses. We do not need more auto repair shops. If you're living in apartment buildings, you don't need people coming in and out with barbershops. We don't need more dance clubs, although there may be some disagreements on some of these points. And I think the purpose of the proposed amendment is to streamline the uses and activate storefronts. And some of this stuff has nothing to do with any of those objectives. So why are these more controversial poison pills being stuck into otherwise well-intended reforms? Go ahead, George.
So this is, some of my newer board members are not going to remember this, but I know John was here, Carl and Joan. When I first got here, and Ursula will remember this, when I first got here, there was a big rezoning that every community board in the Bronx voted against. The ZQA MIH, that's what it was. And to your point, Luke, that was the only way to actually get the city council to the table to negotiate, because that was chugging along. The Bloomberg administration had been pushing it. De Blasio was able to get it but I remember Father Gorman was then the chair. He actually wrote the letter for all the community boards that we sent. And it was only then that then borough president, Ruben Diaz was able to go and negotiate some of the issues that were raised. Ultimately, it came back, we voted for it, and it's now the zoning. But to be fair to Luke, and you're absolutely right. And just so that DCP feels like we've stated this before. We are on the clock. Our vote, Brenda, you can correct me, I think it has to be in by January 8th. But city planning has said that they will accept the recommendations up until February. The only thing is that because we're on the clock, the process that we use, if we don't register a vote by then, we're not going to be able to do so. So I always like to do things, within the time frame that they give to us. So we should vote. Again, how you vote is entirely up to you, but to Luke's point, and to Denise, you can say yes, you can say no, and you can make points. You can say this is, but it should be very clear, and it doesn't seem like we're clear on like what are we saying yes to and what we're saying no to. That's all.
There's a couple of hands. Did you have your hand?
No.
Okay. Carl, then
Yeah, I just want to say something. We're gonna have to vote on this coming Thursday.
Yeah.
Before the Christmas party. That's our last chance to vote on this. And I guarantee you, knowing how this board operates, that we will not have a quorum to take the vote.
Well, I was thinking the same thing, but we're gonna hope that we have.
But I'm just saying, but we have to take the vote. So, and I do hope we have a quorum. I think we should emphasize to the board members that you must be here. If you don't want to celebrate the holidays with us, you can leave after the vote's taken. Before the holiday party starts, the board will meet, take the vote, and the meeting will be closed. And then if you're gonna partake in the party, you stay, you partake in the party. If not, there's doors on both the side and the front that you can leave.
Beatrice has expressed that in her email. She said that. She expressed that we need all the board members here. Next Thursday. She expressed that. But we cannot keep holding their hands. We cannot keep holding their hands. If they don't want to do what they're supposed to do here, then there's an action for that too. But if they're not gonna come, they're not gonna vote, they're not gonna show up to meetings, there's an action for that. So we have to stop holding their hands, because how many times have we meet on this subject already? Thank you.
This will be the fourth time.
That's what I'm saying. We cannot keep holding their hands. Some of them are brand new, they just got here and they don't show up to meetings. That's ridiculous.
Go ahead, Luke.
My question is, are there any, we've heard from voices in the room, are there other voices who want to either talk about pain points here or things they like about the proposal, or give us a general sense of where you're at around
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just the scientific part of the research.
Yeah.
I just think that it's controversial, especially in a heavily residential neighborhood. Usually scientific research labs are usually outskirts of town, farther away. Environmental concerns, research, usually they're regulated by federal state, but in the middle of a neighborhood is very controversial. Thank you.
Other people?
I just want to add something. Are we voting whether to recommend it to the board?
I was just gonna make a recommendation on
I wanted to make a motion.
that. Yeah, well, can you wait to make the motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, Carl.
This thing, is gonna pass. I'm gonna vote no on it, but that's neither here nor there. But we have to take a vote and it has to go to the board. But when we take the vote in the motion, you can make that we have reservations about the program, but we're either gonna approve it or deny it, and we'll forward our recommendations to city planning.
I think that's great, and I would, if anyone wants to build off the report or challenge me on some aspects of the conclusions that I've made, and we want to submit something as a committee at a later date, I think that I would have no objection to that, and I'm committed to working with the committee to achieving a consensus on our ultimate recommendations. But I do agree with the words of several on the committee that we need a vote, that it should be yes or no, and that it should be today, and then we should bring that recommendation of a yes or a no to the full board on Thursday, and then we should have another yes or a no. And then we can continue our dialogue, and we can continue to talk to our city councilmen, and we can continue to talk to whoever might be interested in our feedback and continue to provide those feedback. And we'll probably learn more things about the proposal in the interim. I know several community boards have already made determinations. It's been very controversial in their community boards also. I believe it's all gone down in every community board, and I can understand why. Because, you know, that some of the chambers of commerce, or you know, they have a different consideration than our consideration. We both agree that businesses should thrive, and we want to foster a thriving business environment. But we're, like George said, we're concerned about complaints, we're concerned about quality of life, and we're concerned about preserving the character of the neighborhoods. And when we do a sweeping reform that reverses 80 years of precedent, and says, okay, let's start new, and by the way, let's have, you know, discotheques of less than 200 people, and dining halls of less than 10,000 square foot, and, you know, scientific research labs and food production, you know, below apartment buildings. When we're doing all of that at the same time, I think that we're not doing our job by saying, slow down. So that's why I'm voting.
You know, the reason a lot of these changes were recommended to take the pressure off city agencies from doing their job. It's like auto repair shops in residential areas. We had an issue at 222nd Street. For years, this guy has been violating the community around him. And almost 35 years. And he comes back, he hires this lawyer from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Never been to the city, has no idea what the community looks like. And when we voted it down, because we knew what this service station was causing on the surrounding community, that they couldn't sleep at night, they were throwing parties there and everything else, he called the board racist. If he would have came to the community, he could never make that claim. But he didn't know it. They have no idea. He was losing, so he used the R word. And this board is definitely not racist.
And any other comments before there's a proposal for vote? Go ahead.
My comments is like, neither here or there, but because there's another community board who's dealing with certain things like that. My whole insight of what we're representing, especially our constituents, people who live here, is just to be also mindful that the reason why, for me, of the whole commercial, like people being able to work that, because we already all lived through the pandemic, and if we're supposed to be moving forward, we have to understand that working from home is a privilege that's given to some and not many. And the thing about it too is that I do agree with you, George, that we need to figure out a way to have our local Bronx residents into storefront properties. But the reality of the situation is, and we have to be really concrete and real, the rent of a lot of places is too much for people to be in. If somebody's able to work from home and do business from home, they'll be able to pay their rent. We have a lot of, it's a domino effect, right? It kind of goes to here, it goes to here, it goes to everywhere. And I think that what is great, because I do agree with you that you're gonna have a lot of people in buildings, you already have Amazon packages, you already have unknown people. It's up to us to figure out those recommendations, because it's gonna happen regardless, right? So it's up to us to say, hey, if we have people who are gonna be doing a business in their apartment, a recommendation is that, okay, I need you to always have a list of your clients, a list of people, a list of whatever, so you could have that decorum, so you could have that community. Because what I'm seeing as a resident in New York City is that a lot of times when we're having things that we have for years, for instance, the West Indian Day Parade, a lot of the things get scaled back because it doesn't work with what we're doing now. And my thing is that that is not the culture of the city. We can't love with the city, we can't love of what we produce and then be like, okay, I just need you not to do that anymore. And that's what people feel. So we want to be able to tell them like, hey, we can get those things for you, but you have to understand that it's also a residential place. So maybe that doesn't go here. We have that 222nd White Plains Road, area that could be great for something, but it's not on us if that business strives or not. The Q Lounge, which was on Gun Hill, it was an arcade. They didn't survive. There's nothing that we could really do about that. In a sense, if a nail salon looks over here and they're like, oh, nail salon businesses are doing good, can we say like, oh, well, we have too many already? Part of us is to kind of like, help nurture the other businesses and see what we need, there. So my thing is just thinking of the recommendations. Like, I know that you said that we'll do the yay and nay, and then we'll think about the, recommendations after. Is it that we're gonna do, you said do say yay, I'm sorry. Is it yay and then think of the recommendations after, like don't vote no? I'm sorry, I don't remember.
No.
Like there was a way that you said it. and I'm trying to
I think
remember.
either way, we're gonna follow up with our recommendations.
Okay.
For the
Well, there's no
proposal.
way, yes.
But right now, we're
Okay.
just voting whether the proposal, we're gonna recommend it to the board or not. Am I correct?
Right, if
That's
we're
all
gonna
we're doing.
recommend
And
City of
may I
Yes
add
in its
something?
entirety, economic opportunity, and then afterwards, we can
Can-
make our own proposal.
Can I add something?
Yes, you've been.
Can we behave in unity when we go there? Whatever the decision is made here today, I don't want, excuse me, I'm speaking, I don't wanna go to this meeting and say, one person said, this is what we recommended, and then a whole bunch of other stuff jumps off. Because that's really horrible. I'm willing to stand by whatever decision is made here today.
Well, I have my opinion, I'm not gonna change my opinion,
No, of
but
course
I
not.
will say that there was a vote and that I lost the vote, and that maybe I can do a better job persuading the other 70 members here than I did the 12 members that were at the land use committee meeting, but I'll do it in a respectful way. So that's how I think it has to go.
That's how it was, like, if we say, if it doesn't go your way, then you plan before we even give them the motion that we recommended
So-
this.
See, there's two votes taken. One to accept the report of the committee, all right?
Recommendation of the committee,
Right.
right.
Cool. That should be automatic. And then the second vote taken is who wants to vote in favor of the committee's report or who wants to vote against it. See,
Yeah, you see it.
we can come up with a no recommendation, all right? And then it goes before.
I don't understand, because what's the point of us sitting here
Or-
at
or-
this
or-
time?
first of all-
If you're gonna go there, if we're not gonna go there in unity, and I mean, of course, you can say with recommendations, regardless of, let me finish. But then you wanna try to convince the whole board afterwards that the same land use committee that you sit on made the wrong decision, and this is why.
I think what you're getting at is trying to get consensus among all of us. And I think there are points at which we agree. And that's what I've been trying to find, like, okay, the common sense language, the dancing things for 200 people. Are there things that we can agree on? Because I personally, I'm gonna say, let's do this proposal, let's vote yes. But I can understand, I would be amenable to changing how I vote if we could include some of this language so that it's not just so.
Can I, so this is the way I see it. If there's a vote tonight, and it's 8-2, well, there will be a vote tonight. So let's say it's 8-5 in favor of City of Yes. Then I think somebody from this committee who is in favor of the City of Yes should explain that the committee was in favor and explain why that they were in favor. And then I think, and they can say the committee made a recommendation of 8-5 in favor. And I think anybody on the committee who, listen, I was in the minority on the committee, but here's why I voted in the minority. I think the confusion that we had in the last meeting was, at least from my perspective, not knowing the ins and outs of what was going on. There were certain members that said that there was a vote, and then there were other members that said there was no vote, and there was confusion about what the vote was. So that's why in this meeting, I want to make sure that we're clear that we're voting yes or no on City of Yes, and then our recommendation will be brought to the committee, irrespective, and then you're free to vote however you want.
Right, okay, can we take it to a vote? 'Cause-
Did you want to make the motion?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that we vote whether or not we're recommending this to the board.
Anyone second?
Well, first of all, she has to say yes or no to the board.
Yeah, what is the recommendation? A recommendation of approval or a recommendation?
But-
Whether we approve or not. I mean, it's
No,
a simple motion. That we take it to a vote. How-
You don't need it.
I have a motion.
Well, Carl has a comment
I've
on
been
the
doing,
motion.
I've been sitting on equal.
No, I'm the parliamentarian. First of
Okay,
all, we'll take a vote, whether it's yes or no.
that's what I just said.
Yeah, no, but you have to make it in your motion. I make a motion, no, you said yes or no. Either it's no or yes.
Well, I'm voting against it, to be honest. I was in favor until everyone's concerns came out.
Make your motion,
So I'm voting against it.
so you're gonna make a motion that,
We don't, no, that we
that the
recommend no.
committee recommends no.
No, right.
Do I have a second? Second,
Oh, yeah, John is.
okay.
There's only 5 people here that can vote.
Okay, so this is
Vote.
all right, so this was a motion to recommend no to the City of Yes economic development.
Right.
And that has been seconded.
Can I get a roll call?
Hold on. I don't know.
Oh,
Who can vote?
you wanna go by order, so we'll go
Yeah.
with Carl.
We should have the sign-in sheet as well.
No, because you only taking the vote from the land use committee.
Yeah,
Hey,
land.
I'm sorry.
Carl
Everybody
should-
here is not
In
land
favor.
use.
In favor of,
The no vote.
okay,
You know? Okay.
Robert Link,
No,
John,
wait,
Hey, you're voting
I'm
yes
sorry.
for the motion.
Sorry,
So
the
you voted
motion,
in favor of it.
the
Right.
motion is to recommend no, and
Right.
I vote yes.
yeah.
Sorry.
So, yeah, so that is yes.
All right, so everybody's going to yes.
Well, no.
No.
But
No, the
John,
people that are,
Luke,
Oh,
Luke,
My next?
Yeah.
I vote no to the motion to vote no.
okay.
okay, that's
and
easy.
Denise,
Now you know how I felt when I brought it up.
Denise, you go.
What? Yeah, I'm in favor. I'm the one that brought it up.
No, I know, but you said.
You have to take a
Yes.
vote.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, most
All right.
definitely. No, it's too many.
Wait a minute, now y'all confusing me. Are you voting yes or no?
I'm voting yes,
Yes.
even no.
Yes to the no.
Okay, all right, I got
She's
you
in
now.
favor of making a recommendation of no.
You got pictures here too, the ex officio.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think does her
It
vote
doesn't-
count?
yeah,
Her vote doesn't count.
She's only a tiebreaker.
I would vote yes to the recommendation of no.
1, 2, 3.
She's the tiebreaker.
Only Luke voted no,
Yeah. So it's 4-1.
4-1, yeah.
So it passes.
Well, why doesn't we call the whole roll, right?
No, we did.
Well, I mean, we could, Carla Basadi's not here, she's not present.
She's excused, by the way.
Okay.
No, you're on the committee?
No.
No.
Yeah, no, nobody else.
I just-
There's only 9 members on the committee. Yeah, there's only, I don't wanna take a cheap shot.
No,
So,
don't.
Keisha Margot Lalo Martin. Not present. Alfredo Figueroa, he wasn't online, right?
No.
I didn't see him,
No, and Anthony Reed.
no.
Those are the only people missing.
And we had a quorum, so it passed.
Yeah, you had 5 people.
So it passed, the motion passes,
Yes, 4-1.
4-1. Not present?
All is excused.
Well,
Excused, not present. Most, yes
Keisha
or no?
Margot Martin, Alfredo, and Anthony. Those are the other members who are not here.
Okay.
So what happens now Thursday, the chair shall open the meeting, You're gonna be back in time to open the meeting, Beatrice?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. The chair will open the meeting, and the only thing on the agenda is this vote. And we'll make a presentation, we'll ask the board members to weigh in to approve the committee's report. Boom, that's done. Now, the next vote that comes up is you ask everybody in that's here from the board, and I pray to God that we have a quorum. It's time for them, we need a motion from the floor on the recommendation of the committee. You can say, we are in favor of the committee's report, and then they'll take a vote. You know, we're in favor of what the committee recommends, no on the yes. It's complicated, no on the yes, but that's what it is.
No one city of yes.
Yeah, city of yes.
City
Yeah,
of
no
No
on
one
city of
city
yes.
of yes.
So then they will, and then
Oh, yes to the city.
then the secretary will take a roll call vote. You either say yes or you say no. And at the end of that, whatever comes out in favor or opposed, either way, that's what goes to state planning.
Could the link to this video, since it's been recorded, be sent to the full board, Urs? Did you send that out?
I don't think it was recorded.
Yeah, I've been recording it.
Yes,
Oh, you did?
recorded.
Okay.
It's recorded.
It goes to the whole, it's on our YouTube channel.
It's on
But you're supposed
YouTube.
to just send it, you know, so that.
Yeah.
No,
Can we
okay.
send the link over there?
Because then nobody, you know, I mean, I know that we don't want to,
They're not even
you
gonna
know,
watch.
handhold, but at least so that we send them that as well.
But I would like to say,
They don't open emails, they're not
your
gonna watch
point of
those things.
information on the scientific part of this is what got me over the edge. It's too many indiscrepancies. I mean, it seems they can pretty much do whatever they want with the word itself, the way it's worded, the proposal. But the scientific one, I've never heard I'm trying not to curse, but I've never heard anything in that manner where it's not specific. And it can be actually a danger to our neighborhood. We don't know what they testing, what they're mixing up. I mean, that part was very vague, you're right, because I did read that
They
part.
might be inventing.
That brought me over the top.
They just say the benefit of having
It's way too
certain
many
labs.
indiscrepancies.
They just say
in
one
that
of the benefits of
proposal.
having
It really
labs
is.
is to have the results faster than when you have to say.
No, I got what
I
the
know.
whole
That's a
concept of it.
Yeah,
I
but it
love
has
the
to
whole
be
concept of it.
residential, yeah.
Of making storefronts, you
Set
know,
up paperwork.
activate storefronts.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm talking
Clint, don't
about
go
the
nowhere.
lab.
And there's a lot of
The
overtime, we wanna
reason
try
why
to,
they're
move it, wrap
Yeah,
this up.
yeah.
That's it.
Adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, they're
There's nothing else.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'll see you all on Thursday.
Have a good flight, have a safe flight.
Thank you.
Hold on, before you guys go.
You guys are gonna ruin the holiday.
Yes, thank you.
It's gonna taste good.